go into a specific case study and see which of these options is actually the most preferable one. Quickly introducing the case study. The case study is a 15,000 TEU container ship that operates between South America and Europe. As you can see on the chart, we have voyages within the EU as well as to and from the EU and voyages out of the EU. The distribution is 55% non-EU to EU and 30% EU to EU. The ship only consumes HFO and has an average fuel consumption of 40 tons per day. If we now calculate the greenhouse gas intensity of this vessel, then we recognize that it is non-compliant, which results in a penalty. This penalty for the vessel sums up to 500,000 euros. Now, how can we actually mitigate the compliance costs, in this case the penalty, and reduce it? We did discuss that the first option for being compliant is simply and straightforward paying the penalty. However, as I shared before, it's important to note that the penalty increases over time if you do it consecutively. So for example, if you would just continue paying the penalty, in 2027 the penalty would have already increased by 100,000 euros to 600,000. Also note that if we choose to pay the penalty, we don't have any improvements regarding our EU ETS costs. The second option is buying biofuel. For this vessel, we will need to bunker 320 tons of Bio 100. We have assumed a price tag of 1,000 euro per ton of Bio 100, which would then result in a cost of 322,000 euros. The good thing about biofuel is that it at the same time also reduces the cost of EU ETS compliance. And then lastly, we have the pooling. Here we need to offset, so to say, the compliance balance that we have as the vessel. This is, in this case, 204 tons that we would need to, for example, trade B2B in order to achieve compliance for this vessel, which would result in 255,000 euros surplus costs if we assume a value of 1,200 euros per ton of VLSFO equivalent. Note that in contrast to biofuel, here pooling does not influence the ETS costs. Now, what we can see from here is, of course, that biofuel as well as pooling present more promising results than just paying the penalty. But we also recognize that it is strongly dependent on the assumptions that we make with regard to the bio price as well as the surplus value. So what we did now is that we deep dive a bit into the different prices. So here we have the very same vessel. We have the compliance costs on the left, and the compliance costs here includes FuelEU as well as EU ETS. And then we look at different biofuel prices and recognize, of course, that with an increasing biofuel price, also the compliance cost for this use case would increase. What we can do now is that we overlay it with the compliance cost that we would face if we use pooling. So here we have from the right to the left an increasing surplus value, and we recognize that around 1,000 euro of biofuel price as well as 1,400 euros of surplus value, there's some sort of what we can call a break-even point. And then from there, we can improve the simulation in that sense that we fix the biofuel price at 1,000 euro per ton, and then can recognize what is the compliance cost delta. So do I save something, and if so, how much, or do I need to pay extra for the different surplus values? Because of course the prices are volatile if we think about pooling. So we sort of need to have an idea at which price tag we would buy the surplus value for this very specific vessel. As we can see, everywhere right from 1,400 as a surplus value, the savings would increase if we go for pooling rather than using biofuel. And for every surplus value that is above 1,400 euros, we would result in extra cost if we would choose pooling over biofuel.